Hey guys, Tryhard Casual here. Today we'll be talking about 4 different ways to train your melee skills. Now as quickly as possible, I did want to get some disclaimers out of the way. First and foremost, this is not a how-to guide. I'm going to give you a summary of each method but not go too far in detail. That being said, I will leave some links down below to the various methods we go over. Secondly, I urge you to not care too much about my personal XP an hour. Everyone's stats are different, but mine are almost maxed. The purpose of this video was to see how the XP numbers themselves compare to each other, and then also see the pros and cons of each method. Also, I know some of these methods are able to be tweaked a little bit for more experience, but by default I always like to try and make it as AFK and as cheap as possible. And lastly, I'm going to use RuneLite as my client because it's easier to track experience rates. You don't have to worry, all of these methods are just as easy on the vanilla client. So with all the legal stuff out of the way, let's pound, pummel, and smash our way into this guide. First up on our list is training on sand crabs. Generally, low to mid-level accounts train here, and they really aren't that much of a secret. The beauty of this method is that they spawn in up to groups of 4, and they are aggressive towards you, while at the same time also sporting a low max hit, low defense, and high hit points. This special combination of attributes allows you to AFK for up to 10 minutes while your character trains. After 10 minutes goes by, the crabs will become passive. All you have to do is run away a little bit and then come back again to sit in place for another 10 minutes. On top of that, there are no requirements to train this way, but if it is your first time on Karen, you must travel there from Port Sarim by way of Vyas's ship. And if you want to get on Crabclaw Island, then you'll need to bring 10k. Lower levels will also need to bring food. I tested this out on my account and I ran into a problem. I would kill all 4 crabs before they could respawn. Luckily, there were 2 groups of 4 crabs close to each other. I would have to run between them to keep training, which ruined the AFK nature of this method. My XP rates were actually much higher than I thought they would be. I tested this once with expensive gear and once with budget gear. My official opinion is that it's a great spot to train at until you can kill all the crabs before they have time to respawn. Once it's not AFK anymore, there are better ways to train. Using obsidian armor at Nightmare Zone is the next step up for most accounts training their melee skills. This method will be the most AFK in the video, and I personally used it to do most of my melee training. For those of you that don't know, Nightmare Zone is an area of the game where you can refight bosses from quests you've completed. This method will have some moderate requirements to begin. First off, Nightmare Zone requires you to have at least 5 quests completed. There's a rather large list of applicable quests, but certain ones are better to have completed because of the bosses they allow you to fight. Secondly, you will need to already have some Nightmare Zone points saved up to buy absorption potions. And lastly, to use obsidian equipment you'll need at least level 60 attack and defense. When you do have the appropriate gear and boss selection, you're able to stay training in Nightmare Zone for up to 20 minutes without having to click. That's right, 20 minutes of AFK training. The absorption potions prevent you from taking damage while the bosses infinitely spawn and attack you while you're auto-retaliating. What I usually like to do is set up a timer on my phone for 18 minutes, and whenever it goes off I'll just reset my potions and then go off continuing whatever I was before I had to come back. I know I really breezed over a lot of the details on this one, but I believe Spellsea Osrs popularized this method, and I'll link his video on it down below to learn more. Looking at my XP rates, I was able to obtain 81k an hour, which was a little less than sand crabs, but also more AFK. The cost of obsidian armor does seem high for a new player, but it's well worth it. For the hell of it, I also tried this method with more expensive gear, and my XP rates were basically the same. It really just goes to show you how powerful the set bonus is on obsidian gear. Darrocking in Nightmare Zone is really when you can start getting those big boy numbers for experience rates. As a trade-off, you aren't exactly able to AFK anymore. I do have a comprehensive guide on Darrocking if you want to try it out for yourself or just learn more. I will say that the main requirement for this is that you must have high hit points. Generally around level 92 is recommended because other methods will be better until then. The damage you deal with Darrock gear is really dependent on how many hit points are missing. Every 1 HP missing is an extra 1% damage. Maintaining your hit points to be as close to 1 as possible is what makes this method not AFKable. Every 1 minute you'll have to flick rapid heal on and off to prevent your HP from naturally regenerating. My XP rates came to 117k for the hour. There is a lot of variation on how you can set this up, and higher XP rates can easily be achieved if you do more than the bare minimal. Again, my comprehensive guide on Darrocking can shed some light on the details if you are curious. Alright, I already know what you're thinking. I'm not training in the wilderness. But just hear me out on this one, guys. It can be very well worth it. For those of you that don't know, using the chain mace in the wilderness increases its damage and accuracy by 50%. Generally, what people like to do is train at the Chaos Temple with this weapon because it's multi-combat, a prayer altar is nearby, and it's below level 20 wilderness for easy teleports out. Because of the prayer altar nearby, you're able to camp Piety or any other offensive prayer the entire time while you're training. This increases your XP rate substantially. On top of that, the Chaos Druids you kill can also drop some expensive items if you get lucky. The only requirement for this is that you need level 60 attack to hold the mace. How I like to train there is load up for a 1-hour session and bring a combination of budget items and prayer gear. Looking at what we'd lose on death, it only comes to a little over 100k if you're protecting item, which is really nothing. And remember, you're able to tele out quickly if you need to, but it really isn't a hot PKing spot anyway. Down below I'll link 2 videos on content creators that make good guides on this method already. My XP rate for the hour came to 131k, which is the highest of all these methods. The only downside to this is that you use around 260k an hour in consumables. And you know, you're in the wilderness. So in conclusion, sand crabs are great for low to mid levels. They provide competitive XP rates while being decently AFK with no requirements. Nightmare Zone Obsidian Armor training is amazing for mid to high levels. It provides literally the most AFK training in the game, but does have a moderate number of requirements to begin. Nightmare Zone Darrocking has great experience numbers for high level accounts. It only provides up to 1 minute of AFK time, but it also provides a lot of variation in the ways you can train it. And lastly, Wilderness Mace training can provide some of the best XP rates in the game, but you risk potentially dying to other players while you train. It has a very low entry requirement of 60 attack, but you do have an hourly cost for using the mace and supplies for the whole time. We are closing in on 1,000 subs for the channel, so thank you guys so much for that. I do have a special video planned for that with a small Q&A section in it. Feel free to ask me anything and I'll probably put it in the video. Nothing is off limits. But my next video will be out on Tuesday, so I hope to see you guys there.